Welcome to Husband Talking. Explore riveting tales of infidelity with us. Please subscribe and like to stay updated. Let's begin.
For the last 9 years, I worked as a private investigator and ran my own agency. I started my career as a cop, learned the job, and then decided to work for myself. I normally took on 1 or 2 cases at a time, depending on how busy I was. The pay was good, and I got to set my own hours. I'm 35 now and have been divorced for about a year. My marriage only lasted 6 months. I never had trouble meeting women, am not bad-looking, have a steady income, and a promising future, which many women find attractive. My ex-wife, Megan, was around my age, attractive, and not bad in bed. We dated on and off for about a year, and eventually, she convinced me to take her to Miami, where we got married. I'm still not sure why I went through with it. I liked Megan, but I can't say I ever truly loved her. I guess I just thought it was time to settle down. We moved into my condo, which had all the luxuries, pool, sauna, hot tub, and even a fireplace. Megan had been living in an apartment and worked as a hairdresser at a small shop. I knew she wanted her own salon, and I figured that's why she pushed for the marriage, so I could buy it for her. After about a month, I got her that little business. It was a nice 4-chair salon. She hired 2 friends of hers, and she, of course, was the owner. I didn't pay much attention to her business, but I guess she was doing well. One Saturday, she said she had a couple of appointments and would be home later. I told her fine, as I had a case I was working on and would be gone most of the day myself. I was a few blocks from her salon and needed to use the restroom, so I figured I would stop by her place. When I got there, the sign in the window said closed. I figured she was done early and went home, which was fine since I had my own key. I unlocked the door and headed for the restroom when I heard sounds coming from the office. Being a private investigator, I knew what the sounds were. What I didn't know was who was in the office. I slowly walked up to the door and could tell it wasn't locked. I took out my gun, which I always wore in my belt behind my back, and quickly opened the door. There was my wife of a few months with her skirt up to her waist, sitting on the lap of another man. I know I startled them. Megan screamed and yelled, "Alex," which was my name. That was all she could get out before her lover pushed her off. He was about to get up off the couch when I pistol-whipped him, bruising and scratching his cheek. I said to him, "Get up and get the hell out. The next time I see you, you'll be a dead man." He pulled up his pants and scurried out the door as fast as he could. Megan was crying and said it wasn't what it seemed. I told her, "Shut up. You're supposed to be my wife and you were screwing another man. That's what it looked like and that's what it was. Our marriage is over. You've got 2 hours to go to the condo and get your things. You can leave your key on the kitchen table. If your stuff is still in my condo when I get home, it will be thrown out onto the pavement." Then I turned around and walked out. I stopped by my buddy's house. He was a lawyer, and I knew he didn't work Saturdays. He answered the door and invited me in. I told him I wanted a divorce as soon as possible because I caught Megan screwing a guy not 20 minutes ago in her salon. I mentioned that she could have her damn salon. That was probably why she married me. I had no use for it. That was all she was getting. If she wanted to fight the settlement, so be it. I had a prenuptial agreement, and she would lose the salon if she fought the divorce. Peter, my lawyer, called my house. Megan was there packing her things and, according to Peter, crying while she talked. He told her about the agreement, and she said she would agree to it. He could send any communications to the salon. She didn't know where she was going to live yet. The divorce went through quickly, as I figured it would. Peter said he found out the guy she was with was her old boyfriend before me. They had gotten back together after the divorce. That was the last I saw of either one of them. I was single again, which was fine with me. I was working on another cheating wife case and had to stay at the Plaza Inn. I was keeping tabs on my client's wife. It was a pretty standard case where she told her husband she had to take a trip with her boss. Of course, they had a joint room at the motel. I found out which room they were in and set up 2 surveillance cameras. I had a lot of friends in businesses such as the motel, and I paid them well. So all I had to do was wait until the next morning and retrieve my tapes. As I was sitting at a booth in the lounge having a drink, a young, beautiful lady dressed like a hooker came up to me and asked if I wanted some company. I couldn't believe someone this nice had to hustle. As I was about to say no thanks, the manager came up to her to tell her there was no solicitation allowed in the establishment. Quickly stood up and asked, "Where have you been? You're half an hour late." The manager quickly apologized and walked away. I don't think he believed me, but who cares? I asked the young lady to sit down. I could tell she was extremely nervous. She first thanked me for protecting her the way I did. She was new at this and wasn't sure what to do. I sat back and asked her name. She said, Linda Brooks. I said, now tell me your real name. She raised her head and replied, Rachel Davis. Then she asked if I wanted her services and, if not, she would have to leave. She said she needed to make some money. I asked her if she had a pimp or was on drugs or something, saying she shouldn't be out trying to sell herself. She had tears in her eyes. I don't have any pimp and I've never taken drugs. I need the money for my daughter, so please, if you don't want anything, let me go so I can make some money. Now I was fascinated with this young girl. There's no way she should be selling herself. She was so timid she would be taken over by a pimp or end up dead. Okay, Mary, how much for all night? She looked up at me, startled. She had no idea what to charge. Would you come up to my room for the night for $300? Mary hesitated. I guess so. What do I have to do for $300? Talk to me, Mary. That's it. You just have to talk to me. I reached into my wallet and pulled out 250 bills and a 50 bill and set them on the table, then stood up. Mary picked up the money and followed me to the elevator. We didn't talk until we got to my room. I unlocked the door and opened it for her to walk in. She looked nervous but went in. I followed and closed the door behind me. She slowly undid the top 2 buttons on her blouse. I stopped her and said, that isn't necessary. Please just sit down either on the bed or over on the couch. She chose the couch and I pulled up a chair next to her. She looked at me and said, I don't understand. You paid me $300 to come to your room. What is it that you want from me? Are you a cop? I'm a private investigator, Mary. Oh my God. Are you going to arrest me? No, Mary, I'm a private investigator, not a detective or a cop. I want to help you if you will let me. I was a cop at one time, and if I still were, I would have had to arrest you tonight. I don't understand. Who are you and why would you want to help me? Listen, Mary, my name is Henry Collins. You can call me Jake or JT. You seem like you were having some problems, and for some reason, I'm worried about you. If you'll talk to me, they'll see if there is any way I can help you. I don't think you are a hooker and don't think you really want to be one. You have to trust me and talk with me. Are you willing to do that? I don't know why you want to help me. No one has ever helped me. They always wanted something in return. I just need to make some money to help my daughter. We've lost our insurance and she needs some medical help. Whoa, Mary, back up a little. Let's begin with this hooker gig. How long have you been at it? My guess is not very long. Mary burst into tears. This was my first night and you're my second trick. I need money for my daughter's medical expenses. I understand you needing the money for your daughter. I get that. I want to know about your first trick and why you approached me tonight. Well, I was on the corner like you see in the movies and a guy came by and asked if I would give him a hand job for $25. So I said yes. He pulled around the corner and I gave him what he had asked for. He told me I looked more like the hotel-type girls instead of a streetwalker, so I decided to come inside the motel and look around. I saw you sitting by yourself and approached you. That's it. Damn, Mary, you could have gotten arrested or beaten up or even killed. What were you thinking? Where would your daughter be then? She started crying again. I really felt sorry for her, but simply giving her some money wasn't going to solve her problems. So, Mary, you were saying this is the first and only time you prostituted yourself. You have to tell me the truth if I'm to help you. Tell me about yourself. I promise I won't judge you. I really want to see if I can't help in some way. Why don't you start from the beginning and tell me about your family and work your way up to the present? Mary said it was the first and only time she tried being a hooker, then began her story about her life. When I was about 8 years old, I was made a ward of the state. My parents, both mom and dad, were taken away by the police. My caseworker told me they were cocaine dealers. I had no idea what that was. After all, I was just a kid. When I got older, different foster parents tried to explain it to me. To the best of my knowledge, my parents went to prison. I have never heard from them since, but one foster parent said that my dad was killed while in prison. I don't know if it's true or not. I went from one foster home to another. Some of the people were really nice and others treated me with disgust. I really don't know why. I guess they thought I was going to be a drug addict or something since my parents were. I did decent in school considering all the moving around. I never had many friends. Once their parents found out about my parents, they told their kids not to hang out with me. It was really rough on me. I didn't do anything wrong. I guess it was called the sins of the parents or something. As I got older, I tried to adjust to each family. I never got close to them because as soon as I did, I was shipped out to someone else. I didn't like the last family I was with. When I was 17, I just had to stick it out until graduation. I met a boy at school named Ryan Taylor. I guess you could say he was my boyfriend. Right after graduation, I turned 18 and ran away with Tom. We rented a trailer. I started at a community college and worked at a store. Tom got a job at a local factory. Then I got pregnant. Tom said he was too young to be a dad and I should get an abortion or he would leave me. You have to understand that I never had anyone. I wasn't about to give up my baby. So Tom left us. I kept working as long as I could until the baby came. A girlfriend I met at the market moved in with us and helped pay the rent and food. I had to quit school after Olivia that's my baby was born. Believe it or not, I was able to get a job at the local bank. I did bookkeeping for them. It was a decent job and gave Olivia and me both insurance. I still had some medical bills to pay from the pregnancy before I had insurance, but the hospital let me make monthly payments. That's the way it's been for the last 3 years. Karen, my roommate, and I both kind of take care of Olivia. I work during the day and Karen watches Olivia for me. Then I stay home with Olivia at night. I think Olivia developed asthma. The doctors prescribed medication for her. About 3 months ago, the bank said they were laying off employees. I was on the list. After I got laid off, I went looking for another job. I had to have insurance because of Olivia. I was getting unemployment, but my insurance stopped. I couldn't find another job like I had at the bank because I never finished college. I was getting desperate. Olivia was getting sicker and I had no way to pay for it. I was scared and worried about my daughter. I didn't go to children's services because I remember my life and was afraid they might take Olivia from me. She is all that I have. The medical bills were mounting, and I had to do something. So one day, I just looked in the mirror and said to myself, "You don't look so bad. Maybe someone will pay to sleep with you." I had to do it for my daughter. Once I got dressed, I was scared to death. So out the door I went. That's all I can tell you. She started crying again. "Don't cry, Mary. Everything is going to work out. Are you hungry? Have you eaten lately?" She shook her head no. So I called room service and ordered up a couple of sandwiches and salads. I asked her if she wanted something to drink, and she said pop would be fine. So I got her a soda and ordered a couple of beers for myself. While we were waiting for room service, I flipped on the television to watch a little of the news while I continued to talk to Mary. She told me she was 23 and her daughter Olivia was 3 years old. While watching the news, they talked about a special Outstanding Citizen Award being given to a William Johnson for his contributions to many charities. I looked over at Mary and watched her face grimace. It was a reflex reaction. She didn't say anything. I turned off the TV when there was a knock on the door. It was my friend Rob, a hotel employee, bringing up our food. I asked him how everything was going next door and he laughed, saying he heard a lot of moaning and groaning going on. I reminded him to call me in the morning before the room was cleaned. He said yes, sir, as I gave him a large tip for bringing our food. Mary asked me what that was all about, so I told her the truth. I was running surveillance for a client and needed to complete my work first thing in the morning. It was getting late, and I asked Mary if she wanted to spend the night. I didn't want to send her out this late at night. I told her she could have the bed and I would take the couch, which turned into a bed. She asked if she could call her friend Karen to make sure Olivia was all right. I could hear her on the phone. Karen said, "You did it, didn't you?" Mary said, kind of, "They'll tell you about it in the morning. Is Olivia all right?" Karen replied, "I gave her the medication and told her you would see her tomorrow, and she went right to sleep. Are you going to sleep with the guy? They'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night." I could almost hear her smile. After we finished eating, Mary went and cleaned up. While she was in the bathroom, I jotted down a few notes and names. I had to make sure Mary was being honest with me if I was going to help her. When she came out of the bathroom, she had on one of my long t-shirts and asked if it was all right for her to wear it. I smiled and said the t-shirt never had it so good. The funny thing was, it was true. I went into the bathroom and took a shower. When I came out, Mary was fast asleep. She looked like an angel lying there sleeping. God, I hope she was telling me the truth. I really wanted to help her. The next morning, I got up early. Mary was still fast asleep. I left her a big note that told her she better still be there when I got back. I took off to a local Costco that was open 24 hours. I went into the ladies section and bought her a blouse, a pair of jeans, a package of bikini underwear, and a pair of girl sneakers. Then I went to the cosmetics counter and bought her White Diamonds cologne and a tube of lipstick that I thought would look good on her. Then I remembered I forgot the bra and went back and picked that up also. I bought an overnight bag to put everything in and headed back to the motel. As I opened the door, I could hear her in the shower. She was actually singing. She had a nice voice. I could picture her sitting with her daughter and singing to her. I heard the shower stop, and a minute or so later, the bathroom door opened. I guess I scared her at first because she let out a little scream. She was standing there with a bath towel wrapped around her. Damn, she looked sexy. I handed her the overnight bag, and she asked me what it was. I told her it was clothes because I wasn't going to take her out to breakfast looking like a hooker. She took the bag and walked back into the bathroom. She came out a few minutes later smiling and asked me how I knew her sizes. I told her when I went to the bathroom the night before, her clothes were all over the place. Her bra, panties, and blouse from the night before all had size tags on them, along with her shoes. I guessed at the jeans according to her skirt. The cologne and lipstick I picked because I liked them. She thanked me and gave me a kiss on the cheek. Then she asked me what happens now. I told her we would go to breakfast, and then we had to come back to the room. As soon as I finished my business, I would see she got home. After returning from breakfast, I had to say I totally enjoyed her company. Dressed in jeans, she could have passed for my daughter. She was one pretty girl and smelled great. She smiled at me all through breakfast. I went next door and retrieved my tapes. By the look of the room, my client's wife and her boss had an all-nighter. I would take the tapes to my client later. I asked Mary if she had a car and drove to the motel the night before. She laughed and said her car was so old it would be a classic if it looked better and ran good. It was just an old rust bucket that helped her get around. As we were getting ready to leave the room, she offered me my $300 back. She said she never earned it. I told her she did. I offered her $300 if she would spend the night with me and all she had to do was talk, and I told her she did plenty of that. Again, with the tears in her eyes, she was a regular tear-making machine. We got into my Honda and I drove her home. She lived in a trailer court not too far from the heart of town. As I drove her home, I asked her to promise me that she would never try the hooker scheme again. I gave her my card and told her to call me if she needed anything. Otherwise, I would contact her in a few days and she should hold tight and everything would be all right. As she was getting out, she gave me a big hug and kissed me on the lips this time, thanking me over and over for helping her. Then there were the tears as she grabbed her overnight bag and went into the house. I stopped by my office to make a couple of calls. I got hold of one of my contacts and told her to find out anything she could about a few names that I had: Rachel Davis, Ryan Taylor, and William Johnson. I wanted anything she could find at all. I asked her to please keep it under wraps and get back to me as soon as possible. Then I called my client and told him I had some tapes to give him, confirming that his wife was having an affair, and the tapes should be all the proof he needed. We set up a meeting for later that day. I took a look at the tapes. His wife was a looker. She must have been a sex addict the way she rode her boss. After he took her a couple of times, she walked to the door and let in another woman. They had 2 double beds in the room, and while her boss lay on one bed, she and the other female got on the other bed for a little girl-on-girl action. It was something to see. When a woman eats out another woman, it looks totally different. I guess the women know exactly where to shoot for. I ran the woman's photo through a database. My client might want a name. That's why I make the big bucks. I give the client what they need. I met with my client and told him he might want to view these tapes alone. I mentioned to him that they were taken without the knowledge of the recipients, so he couldn't use them in court but could definitely use them for leverage. Then I gave him a copy of a tape of the hall monitor, which showed who went in and out of that room and at what time. That tape could be used in court. He paid me and I was on my way. Unfortunately, I probably started another divorce proceeding, but that's what I do. When you play, you pay. That was my motto. When I went back to my office, I had a message to call my contact back. She told me she had some information on all 3 people. First, Ryan Taylor was a guy that worked at a local factory. The only reason his name was in the database was that he was found with a little weed when he was stopped on a traffic violation about a year ago. He paid a fine and then did a few days of community service. No big deal there. Now, my contact Rachel Davis was another story. She was a ward of the court ever since she was a kid around 8 years old. Her parents were in prison for cocaine dealings. Her dad was killed about 9 years ago in a yard riot. Her mom was released and moved out west somewhere. She wasn't on the defined list, so my source didn't go any further with her. She told me that Mary ran away from her last foster home. She cried assault on the last foster parent. When the police did a follow-up, there wasn't enough evidence to prove a sexual assault had happened. The man said it was consensual sex between two adults and that if it was assault, why did this Mary girl wait 2 months to report it? The case was dropped for lack of evidence. My contact continued. This Mary woman did have a child. Now, the big thing is this William Johnson fellow you had me check on was the accused assaulter. He is also receiving the Outstanding Citizen Award in the next few weeks. Was there any more info on the Mary woman? Only that she got a ticket about a month ago for an unsafe vehicle. That's about it, Jake. Hope it helps. I thanked my contact and hung up the phone. Everything Mary told me was true except for the assault. Remembering the grimace on her face, I knew she was telling the truth. I might have to pay a visit to Mr. Baxter. After a very busy day, I headed home. I was thinking about Mary and how I could help her. She seemed so sweet, and I felt something for her. Maybe it was knowing what she went through in her short life or that she had a sick child that I could tell meant the world to her. Maybe I really cared for her. I decided to hit the hay early. My back hurt from sleeping on the stupid hideaway bed. Knowing a gorgeous woman was a few feet away and I played the knight in shining armor. I woke to the sound of my phone going off. It was 4:30 in the morning. I jumped from the bed and answered it. I heard a woman's voice. She sounded nervous or scared. Jake, is that you? Mary, calm down. I recognized her voice instantly. What is it, Mary? It's Olivia. She was having trouble breathing, so I rushed her to the hospital. The doctor wants to admit her. Jake, I need to borrow some money for her admission. Can you loan me enough to pay part of her medical bill? He'll be there in 20 minutes. Tell that damn doctor to admit her. I hung up and quickly dressed and rushed to the hospital. I knew they had to admit children without question. Someone was just giving Mary a hard time, probably over the bill she still owed. I was pissed. Why do we have idiots always trying to cause trouble with single women? When I got there, Mary ran up to me and told me that the doctor said he was having Olivia admitted immediately. The doctor came out and came up to me to apologize for the admitting error. I told him to apologize to Mary, not me. It was she who must have misunderstood him about the admission of her sick daughter. He went over to Mary and told her how sorry he was for the misunderstanding. I headed over to the admissions desk and laid down a credit card and told the woman at the desk that she was to make sure that all charges for Olivia were taken care of. I would expect to see an itemized bill when she was released. Also, she should put the remaining balance of Olivia's account on it as well. I could tell the clerk was worried. She must have been the one to tell the doctor about the outstanding balance. Mary came up to me with those tears again and gave me a big hug. I told her everything was taken care of and that Olivia would get the best care. If they gave her any problem at all, she was to notify me. The doctor came back and stated that Olivia's breathing had been brought under control. They would keep her for a few days and run some tests to make sure she was getting the proper care and determine what medication she was to receive. I could tell he was trying hard to make up for the admissions goof. That was fine with me. I just wanted Mary treated better and her daughter to get proper care. Mary and I went down to the cafeteria and got a cup of coffee and talked for a few minutes. She thanked me over and over, saying she had never met a man like me. She didn't know men like me existed. Please, Mary, no more tears. I'm here if you need me. I honestly didn't know why I was doing this for a perfect stranger. I felt I had to do it. I, for some reason, felt responsible, but why? She said she should get back up to Olivia's room. She wanted to be with her. I told her to call me later in the day because I would like to see her at my office when she had a chance. There were a few things I wanted to talk over with her. She said she would pay back every dollar I loaned her if it took the rest of her life. I just smiled and said that I liked the idea of seeing her for that long and might just hold her to it. I left and headed for home. Later that day, she called and said that Olivia was doing good. The doctor said that her medications hadn't been doing the job and that's why she had the breathing flare-up. He was sure they could find the proper combinations now since she was tested. She would probably be released in the next couple of days. She thanked me again and said she hadn't forgotten that I wanted to see her and would be there probably the next day when her friend Karen would be with Olivia. 2 days later, a wreck of a car blowing blue smoke out of its tailpipe pulled up in front of my office. I watched Mary jump out, smiling when she saw me at the door. She asked me how I knew she was coming, and I told her that her car noises and smoke arrived 10 minutes ago. She just laughed and came into my modest office. As she entered, she saw a beautiful woman at my reception desk. I could tell she was taken aback. I guess she never thought of me having a secretary. I introduced the two women. Mary, this is Emma, and of course Emma, this is Mary, the woman I had mentioned to you. They greeted each other, but like two women wondering about the other. Kind of made me laugh. You see, Emma was my younger sister. She still thought she was my keeper, always watching any woman who approached me. She reminded me that she didn't like Megan, but I married her anyway, and look where that got me. I had told her all about Mary. I guess that's why she stared at her so hard. She didn't want Big Brother to get burned again. She had been working for me for years but wanted a lot fewer hours. I told her about Mary and was thinking of hiring her, but that I wanted her opinion. I was going to have her interview Mary for the job. After the two women finished their hello, I asked Mary into my office. I told Emma to hold any calls for the next few minutes. Mary followed me into my office and I asked her to sit in a chair while I sat behind my desk. I asked about Olivia and she said she was doing great. She told me because of how much I have helped them, it probably saved Olivia's life, and I haven't even met her yet. She looked up and told me she thought I would love Olivia. She could see the warmth in my eyes and knew I had it in my heart because of all the things I have done for her and Olivia. Well, Mary, I have a couple of things to talk over with you. They'll pay you back. It was my turn to interrupt. This isn't about money, Mary. I need to ask you a few questions, and I need for you to be totally honest with me if I'm to continue to help you. I have been honest with you, Jake. Mary, I know about the assault. She started crying, so I got up and went around my desk. As she stood up, I just held her. I didn't mention it, Jake, because nobody believed me. So I figured, why would you? That's why Tom left. He wasn't going to be a father to someone else's child. I'm sorry, Jake. Everything else I explained to you is true. She sat back down and I pulled a chair next to her. Mary, you can have a DNA test done and he would have to pay child support if the DNA proves positive. He admitted to having sex with you, albeit consensual. Jake, he assaulted me. I don't want his money if he can take my daughter or even be around her. My skin crawls whenever I see him on the television. I don't want him near my daughter. You can understand that, can't you? Of course I can. I guess I was only thinking of your financial situation. I am sorry. Mary, are you good? What do you mean, sexually, Jake? Oh my God, no. I am sorry. I was thinking ahead of myself. Are you good at doing bookkeeping, some accounting, and general office work? I think I am. What are you getting at, Jake? I'm thinking of offering you a job. It all rests on my sister's opinion. She's a great judge of people, and if you are interested, I will have her interview you. That beautiful woman out there is your sister? I would love to interview for the job if it gets me insurance. She smiled. I didn't know if she was smiling about the job or that Emma was my sister. I called Emma in and informed her that I had to leave for a while to work on a cheating husband case this time. I asked her to have Mary fill out an application and interview her like we had talked about earlier. I would be back later and then we could talk about it. I told Mary the first would contact her later and let her know our decision. She thanked me again for everything. I told them they could use my office and I would see them later, then walked out. Damn, I thought. I sure hope Emma likes her. I sure the hell do. Maybe I'm becoming too attached. Well, I had promised Emma I would abide by her decision. A few hours later, I called the office and told Emma I couldn't get back that night. I was busy following the cheating husband. She asked me if I was ready to talk about Mary. I replied, no, my mind has to be on what I'm doing, but I will call Mary and let her know I'll give her an answer tomorrow. I knew Emma could tell I was nervous from my voice. Jake, they'll tell you all about it Sunday, but while you have Mary on the phone, tell her she starts Monday. By Big Brother, and she hung up. Yes, that was great news. It would be interesting to hear what Emma had to say. She was one good judge of character. After that, I was smiling as I went to get the info on another cheating husband. Damn, didn't people like their spouses anymore? For once, I would like to find that the spouse didn't cheat. That would be great news to take back to a spouse. Your spouse wasn't cheating. Just a mistake on your part. It hadn't happened yet. Usually, where there's smoke, there's fire. Wow, what an original thought. I gave a quick call to Mary. She jumped right in and said, well, did I get the job? I hesitated before answering. I had a habit of doing that to people. Jake, are you there? I heard a sad tone in her voice. I couldn't do this to her. Yes, Mary, I'm here. I did speak in a soft tone. I didn't get to talk with Emma very long. I won't get back tonight. She told me to tell you she preferred skirts and blouses or a business outfit and for you to be there Monday at 9 a.m. Do you think you can make it in that old car of yours? I could hear her crying again, but this time it was joy. God, Jake, I'm so happy. Thank you. You've done so much for me and hardly know me. You'll be there if I have to walk all the way." Listening to her brought tears to my eyes. I had to focus on what I was doing now, so I told her she was welcome and I would see her Monday. I followed my client's cheating husband to a house in the suburbs. Christ, it looked like another desperate housewife having a fling. It was a little harder gathering evidence at homes, but my equipment was sophisticated enough to do it. I would be able to get the sounds and the rest would just be photos. He pulled into the drive and the garage door opened and he pulled inside. I aimed my microphone in the direction of the house and was able to pick up their voices. As I was recording the sounds, I opened my laptop and checked on the address to see who we had living there. Bob and Sarah Mills had lived at that address for 12 years, according to the data service I used. I called my source for a background check. I like to give my clients all the information I can. She said she'd get right back with me, so I simply listened to the grunts and groans coming from the house. "Screw me, baby. Feels so good." The talk just kept going. I always wondered why the husband was cheating. I met his wife. She was every bit as good-looking as this woman. She didn't seem like the kind of wife that always said no to her husband. Well, my problem was just to get the evidence. My source called back and said nothing on file on either person. I guess it was just another marriage going down the tubes. I needed a few pictures as evidence so I wouldn't have to come back later. I got a few pictures of his car, both entering and leaving the premises. 2 more failed marriages. I checked the files and found that they were old schoolmates, probably another old boyfriend and girlfriend trying to bring back old times. Damn it, I hated cases involving kids. I took the pictures and the recordings and turned them into my client. Come to find out, they were all old classmates. My client told me that Sarah was her rival in school. She thought she won the man, but apparently, other than his money, he wasn't that good of a catch. My job was finished. The couples could argue it out in court. I headed home. I was thinking about Mary and little Olivia, whom I had yet to meet. Some families have everything and throw it away, and others struggle to make ends meet. I stopped over at my sister's house on Sunday. I wanted to talk to her about Mary before I saw her on Monday. Emma greeted me at the door with a big sisterly hug. Her 2 rugrats came out yelling, "Uncle Jake! Uncle Jake!" Emma had been married for about 8 years. Her hubby, Tom, was a good guy. He was an electronics whiz. That's why I always had the latest and updated equipment. As Tom was cooking up the steaks and the kids were in the pool, Emma and I talked for a few minutes. "Well, what do you think of Rachel Davis?" I asked. "Jake, she's wonderful. Bright, intelligent, and, as you know, beautiful. She learns fast." I went over a couple of the duties she would have and she picked up on them instantly. She knows how to use a computer, although she will have to learn our particular programs. I don't see it being a problem. She will learn it fast. She did ask if she could bring Olivia to the office for the first couple of weeks until she adjusted to her new medical program. After that, she would enroll her in a preschool. I said I would talk it over with you but didn't see a problem there. The only problem that I can see is that she is in love with you. What? Come on, Emma. I helped her out. She probably likes me since I helped her with Olivia and offered her a way out of where she was headed. But love me? Come on, I'm, 14 years older than her. Jake. She is extremely grateful for everything you have done for her. I can see that she feels she really owes you for all you've done for her. But I'm talking inside her heart. Jake. She loves you and would literally do anything for you. Jake, I really like Mary. Please don't hurt her. She and her daughter have been through hell. God, Emma, the last thing I would want to do is hurt her. I promise you will be a nice guy. You tell me if you think I'm mistreating her in any way and he'll try to change it. Just take your time, Jake. Don't rush it and it will all be okay. Now let's go and eat those steaks Tom cooked up. Emma never pulled any punches. I wonder if she knew how I felt about Mary. I guess time will tell. I told Emma that I would be late coming in Monday. I had a few loose ends to clean up and she could get Mary started on Monday. I showed up around noon. Mary had parked that junk car in my spot. I had to laugh. As I walked in, I saw Emma standing there holding the most precious little girl I have ever seen. She was a spitting image of her mother. Emma kissed her on the cheek and put her down. She came walking over to me and I picked her up. Hi, sweetheart, and what's your name? Olivia Smith, she responded. Well, hi, Olivia Smith. Glad to meet you. You can call me Uncle Jake. Uncle Jake. My mommy said you saved my life. Thank you. And she gave me a big hug that made my eyes water. That was the nicest thank you I have ever received. I looked over at Emma and her eyes looked like mine. Mary came out of one of the other offices and saw me holding Olivia. She was smiling until she saw Emma and I with tears in our eyes. "Is something the matter?" she asked. "No, a little girl just made my day." And I smiled. I asked Mary to take her car and go down the road to the car dealer and ask for Ray. He was to show her some cars. If she worked for us, she needed something more dependable to drive. She was going to say something about money, but instead asked if she should take Olivia with her. I told her that we would watch her. Ray, my auto dealer, told us later that Mary had pulled up in her clunker and was looking at the used cars on the lot when he told her that she wasn't supposed to get one of those. She figured they were more expensive than she was allowed to get. Ray took her into the showroom and told her that I wanted her to pick out a new car. Ray informed her that we leased cars instead of buying them, and she had her pick of any car there within reason and our business would be paying for the lease. I had told Ray that there was a limit on the price she picked, but didn't want him to tell her unless she went over the limit. I just figured she wouldn't. She was looking at the Audi and smiled at Ray. That was almost double the limit I gave Ray. He didn't say anything until she went up to the compact cars and picked one out. She wanted a 4-door so she could put Olivia's car seat in it. She also said that she wanted vinyl seats because she knew kids would spill things in it and it would be much easier to clean. Ray looked at her and said that she could get a much bigger car if she wanted. She told him that she liked the one she picked out but would like it in blue if they had it because that was Olivia's favorite color. She asked if they had the little portable DVD player that went over the seat. That way, Olivia could watch cartoons or movies if they went anywhere. Ray told her she had a few papers to sign and that they indeed had her car in blue and they would put in the DVD player. It would be a few minutes, and if she wanted, she could clean out her personal stuff from her car since it was a trade-in. And they both laughed. She asked for a couple of garbage bags to throw all her stuff in and asked them to transfer the child travel seat into the new car. They did what she had asked as well as switched the plates. Before she left, Ray said he asked her why she stared at the Audi but didn't ask about it. She told him that it was exactly the same kind of car that Jake drove, and that made me smile. I love my little car. It's just right for me. She put her 2 bags of stuff in the trunk and came back to the office. When she got back, she pulled into my spot and just smiled. She came in and gave me a big hug. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're my boss now." Emma and I both started laughing. Mary just had a habit of doing little things that made us laugh. I really liked her in a big way. Over the next few days, Mary and Emma became the best of friends. They were more like sisters. It was nice listening to them laughing at different things. I could hear them from the office whenever I was there. Also, little Olivia always showed up when I was in my office. She always sat on my lap while I conducted business on the phone or computer. She would sit and color or draw pictures. I was in love with this little girl and knew I felt the same way about her mother. I just had a hard time admitting it. We had a business relationship while at the office, but a couple of times a week we would go out for dinner. We would always take Olivia along. One morning, I decided to pay a visit to Mr. William Johnson. I had to watch my PS and QS with the man. I knew he assaulted Mary and I knew she wanted nothing to do with him. I had an appointment with him that morning. His secretary told him I was there. I waited a few minutes before she told me I could go in. "So, Mr. Henry Collins, you're a private investigator. What can I do for you?" "Mr. Baxter, I'm here on behalf of Rachel Davis." "What's this about?" "That case is closed. I never assaulted that. We had consensual sex. If you have any other questions, you can contact my attorney. Now please leave." "Okay, Mr. Baxter, I'll head over to the newspaper and tell them about your daughter, the one you don't claim. You're big news with the special award coming next week. I'm sure they would like this story." "Child? What child?" he asked. "You son of aim tired of playing games with you. That you assaulted had consensual sex with about 5 years ago had a baby. Your child. I have all the proof I need to go public with it. I'm sure your wife, children, and grandchildren will be happy to know they have a new family member." I knew he was shocked. He had no idea that Mary became pregnant. I saw an inhaler on his desk. He picked it up and took a whiff. "Why, Mr. Baxter, I might mention that your child has asthma also. I guess it runs in the family. What do you want from me? How do I know you're not lying? Let's begin with what I want for Mary and your daughter. First, I want you to fill out a letter saying you are giving up all parental rights to this child and that you will never bother them or have anything to do with either one of them. That way, Mary will be the sole parent of the child. Next, I want a cashier's check made out to Rachel Davis for $40,000. That will be to help pay the cost of the past and future medical bills that they have incurred or will incur, mainly due to the pregnancy and the asthma problem. That's blackmail. I can have you arrested. No, you fat pig. I was starting to get pissed. It's an easy out for you. If you prefer, you can pay all her medical bills and child support payments for 18 years instead. Then the rest of your family members and the public will know also. That was my suggestion to Ms. Smith, but she didn't want your molester body anywhere near her child. As proof, I will give you a copy of her daughter's DNA to take to your attorney. You can have it matched up to your own DNA. I'm sure he will agree with this settlement. Unfortunately, it lets you off the hook. I will be back in 2 days to pick up the letter and the check. If you feel really lucky, we can go to court. I thanked him for his time and then told him I would see my way out. When I got back to the office, Emma asked to speak to me in private. We went into my office and she asked me, "When are you going to ask Mary to marry you?" She said that she knew I loved Mary. She could see it in my face every time I looked at her. I told her that I was taking it slow like she told me to. I had hardly even kissed her. I always tell Emma the truth. I never could hide anything from my little sister. I told her I thought I was in love with Mary. I had never felt this strong about any woman before, even Megan, whom I was married to for a few months. But I was 14 years older than Mary. What would our marriage be like 5 or 9 years up the road? Would she want some young stud then? You big idiot, that girl wants you. She tells me how much she is in love with you just about every day. Believe me, you ask and she'll say yes. Besides, you get a daughter as a kicker. Even Olivia loves you. She told me she didn't have a daddy. But if she did, she would want him to be just like Uncle Jake. I didn't know what to say. I asked Emma one more time if she was sure. She looked up at the ceiling in disbelief and walked out of the room. I followed her out and was approached by Mary. "Jake, would you like to go on a real date with me? My roommate Karen is getting married Saturday and she asked me to invite you to the wedding and reception. She has never met you and am always talking about you. Would you be my date?" "Wow, you're right, I have never met her." "Yes, I would be more than happy. In fact, it would be an honor to be your date." Well, that was a start. Later, when Emma and I were alone, I asked about watching Olivia Saturday and she told me she and Mary worked that out a week ago. I told her I was just asked to go. She laughed and said, "I knew you would say yes. I just told Mary to wait to ask you. I know how you are with dates and appointments. The closer to the event, the better chance of you making it. By the way, I'm keeping Olivia the whole weekend. Just thought you might like to know. Mary has never seen your condo. Saturday might be a nice day to show it to her. Just have her back here in time for work Monday. A sister. She's been taking care of me my whole life, even if she was younger than me. After our parents were killed in a car wreck when I was 23, Emma was always watching out for me. Hell, she knew me better than I knew myself. A couple of days later, I knew it was time to go back and see the scumsucker Mr. Baxter. I wondered what his reaction would be. I knew he always played the boss, the arrogant son of a, but this time he met his match. I walked up to his receptionist and asked to speak to Mr. Baxter. She asked me if I was Henry Collins and I told her I was. She explained that Mr. Baxter was unable to see me, but she was told to give me an envelope. She handed me the envelope. I thanked her and left his office. The son of a was afraid to see me again. Just H. The results were what I was shooting for. As soon as I got in my car, I opened the envelope and it was a cashier's check for $40,000 and the letter saying he gave up all parental rights to Olivia. Man, was I ever happy. He left a note for me in the envelope also. "Mr. Turner, my business with you is over. I expect this case to finally go away. I expect you to be a man of your word." Well, unfortunately, I was a man of my word. I took my note out of the envelope and closed the envelope back up. I headed back to the office and called Mary and Emma into my office. They both sat down and little Olivia came around and sat on my lap. Mary opened the envelope and pulled out the letter and the check. She looked at Emma and asked what it all meant. Emma told her that William Johnson wanted nothing to do with her or her child and had given up any legal right to the child. She was now the sole guardian of Olivia. To help raise the child, he gave her $40,000 as long as she never bothered him again. "You mean this is my money and I never have to worry about anyone trying to take Olivia from me?" Emma nodded and Mary let the tears flow. She stood up and said, "I don't care if you are my boss," and she kissed me, a true lover's kiss. Then she put her arms around me and simply held me tight. Emma looked over at me and whispered, "I told you." Olivia looked up and asked, "Mom, How come you're kissing Uncle Jake? She looked at me and then over at her daughter. Because I love him, sweetheart, and I don't care if he knows. I didn't know what to say, so I suggested we close up early and all go out to celebrate. Emma called Tom and he and the kids were all going to meet us at the Applebee's. At dinner, Mary said that she didn't know how I did at getting the letter from William Johnson and the money for her, but she meant what she said at the office. I was always at a loss for words lately around Mary. When the time comes for me to tell her I love her, I want the timing to be just right, the right mood, the right time, and the right place when we will be alone. Everyone at the table probably knew my feelings, but saying them was different. Olivia asked to sit next to me at the restaurant. She ended up between her mom and me. That really took off a little pressure until my sweet little Olivia looked up from the table and blurted out for everyone to hear, "Uncle Jake, do you love my mommy?" She said today she loves you. Out of the mouths of babes, what do I say? This wasn't exactly the time or place. So I told Olivia I had a secret for her. She bent over and put her ear by me. I whispered so only she could hear, "Yes, I love your mommy and I love you too." She looked at me, surprised or happy or something. She stood up on her chair and gave me a big hug. Then she turned to her mother and said, "Mommy, Uncle Jake loves both of us," as she smiled at her mother. "Sweetheart, that was supposed to be a secret. You weren't supposed to tell anybody," I replied. "Oh, I'm sorry, Uncle Jake, but I don't keep secrets from Mommy. She told me to tell her everything. That way she can protect me better." I looked at the group all laughing at the table and merely tried to ignore their remarks. In 2 days I was going to a wedding with Mary. Maybe the mood would be a little better for romance. When I came into work on Friday, Emma came into the office. She handed me a check for $2,400. She said Mary said that's what she owed me for paying up all the medical bills. Then Emma handed me 3 $150 bills. She said that Mary told her that was unearned money and she was returning it since she could afford to. Emma laughed and said that Mary said the day that I felt she earned, I could give it back to her. I picked up Mary on Saturday afternoon for our date. Karen had already left for her wedding. That meant that from that day forward, Mary and Olivia would be living in the trailer alone from now on. Emma was there picking up Olivia when I arrived. She looked around the trailer then came up to me before Olivia came out. "Big brother, follow your heart and do the right thing tonight." I knew what she meant and that was my plan. Never in my life has my little sister tried to fix me up with any woman. She never trusted them. Or maybe she could always read my heart. You'll never know, but her instincts were the best of anyone I had ever known. Mary appeared at the door. She looked like an angel dressed in blue. I can't describe how I felt at that minute. I walked up to her and took her hand and walked her to my car. She kissed her daughter and told her to be good for Aunt Emma. She then hugged Emma and thanked her for everything. I opened her door and told her how beautiful she looked. I got in and we drove to the wedding. We went into the church and took our seat. As the wedding began, I just held Mary's hand in mine. I watched as the bride came forward. I was slightly surprised to see that she was an older woman, maybe near 60 years old. It never dawned on me she might be an older woman. As she walked by us, she smiled at Mary, who by then had started the waterworks. I handed her my handkerchief. I knew she was happy for her friend but was probably thinking about her own wedding and wondering if it was going to ever happen. At the reception, she introduced me to Karen. I said hi and of course offered my congratulations. "It is very nice to finally meet you," she said. "Thank you for everything you've done." For Mary, I always wondered what a guardian angel looked like. And now I know. She then gave me a big hug. As the night progressed, I danced every slow dance with Mary. I told her how beautiful she looked and how great she smelled. "You better like it. You bought it for me along with the lipstick." I remember now buying the lipstick and White Diamonds cologne. I kept holding her close, then closer. Her friend Karen asked me to dance one dance. As we danced, she told me how much Mary cared for me. It seemed like everyone knew. A number of men asked Mary to dance, but she refused all of them. The groom asked, and they danced for about a minute and then came by Karen and me, and we switched partners. I had Mary back in my arms. I asked her why she didn't dance with anyone else. She said that this was our first real date and she preferred to only dance with me. I figured it was time to let my heart out. Mary and I went out on the patio where we were alone. I took a deep breath and began. "Mary, I love you with all my heart and soul. I know you know that. It seems everyone knows it. I want you to marry me, but I'm afraid that our age difference might be a problem." She stopped me by putting a finger against my lips, Then she spoke. Jake, our ages mean nothing to me. I don't care if you were 23 or 62. You are the nicest, kindest, and most wonderful person I have ever met. I knew I loved you from the first night we were together. I was afraid that I wasn't in your league, but the more I learned about you, the deeper I fell in love with you. If the offer is still open, I would love to marry you and be your wife. I kissed her, the gentle, loving kisses. Jake, there is something I need to tell you. I may not be a good lover. You know I've had sex because I have a daughter, but I have never made love. I'm a little scared that I may not be able to please you. I looked into those always staring eyes and said, I want a wife who can make love. Will you come home with me tonight and we will see how we click? There was no doubt in my mind about our lovemaking. I've wanted her since the night I picked her up in the motel. I haven't had sex with anyone since that day. I don't usually sleep with anyone on the first date, but for you, I'll make an exception. Can we leave right now and get a head start on it? We said our goodnights to Karen and her husband. I saw Mary whisper in Karen's ear. I know she told her I had proposed to her. I watched as they both hugged and then we left. As we pulled up to my condo, Mary couldn't believe it. She saw the pool, the sauna, and the hot tub. I asked her if she wanted to start there in the hot tub. She shook her head no, so we walked into my condo. She exclaimed about what a beautiful place it was, but said it could use a woman's touch. She was right. There is something about the way a woman decorates that almost always looks and feels more like a home. I showed her through the rooms and then to the master bedroom. She saw the king-size bed, smiled at me and said, I want to begin there, pointing to the bed. There we were, in my bedroom. We were both a little uneasy. I would done this dozens of times. Hell, I was 35 years old. Why should I be nervous? I walked over to the CD player and put on a romantic disc, with music playing low in the background. I turned on a corner lamp and turned all the rest of the lights off. I asked Mary if she wanted to do this and she replied, more than anything. Please be gentle with me. I reached for the zipper on her dress and slowly pulled it down. I pulled the dress off her shoulders and let it drop to the floor. She stepped out of it and I picked it up and folded it over a chair. I took her in my arms and kissed her. She smelled so good. As I kept kissing her, but always gently, barely touching our lips together, I quickly slipped off my suit jacket while she was undoing my tie. I started to unbutton my shirt when she slapped my hand and said she wanted to do it. Then, while I slipped off my shirt, she had my belt unbuckled and unbuttoned my trousers. We were both down to our underwear. She sat on the edge of the big bed. I pushed her back lightly so she was lying on her back with her legs dangling over the side. All the time I was doing this, I could hear the romantic music playing softly in the background. Sighs and moans were coming from Mary. No words were being spoken. It was driving me half crazy. I finally turned my face straight and went for the gold. She screamed out, God. Oh God. I never felt anything like this. And then she erupted again. She moved up to the center of the bed and I joined her. God, Jake. That was the greatest feeling ever. I started kissing her. She kissed me harder and harder, with lots of passion. Jake, let me give you pleasure. You've given me so much, and I want to do it for you. I love you, Jake. I love you so much. After the spasms slowed down, she was about to get up when she said to me, I think I'm going to have a mess when I get up. We rested for about a half hour and I asked her if she packed a swimsuit in her overnight bag. She held it up and I said we could go cool off in the pool and then get ready to make more love. Jake, I love it when you say love instead of sex because with you, that's what it is. I've had sex but never had love until with you tonight. There's a lot more love left in this old body. It just takes an hour or so to build up. Let's go to the pool and then come back and see what pops up. She put on a cute two-piece suit that looked great on her, and I slipped on my suit and we headed to the pool. After the pool, she wanted to try the hot tub. Watching her in the tub was getting to me. I had my hand and lips all over her. She reached down and felt my hard member. I think it's time to go back in before we get arrested out here. She smiled. After getting all refreshed, with me horny as hell, we went back in and started again. She was hot and waiting. I started with straight sex. I lay across her but held myself up to keep from putting all my weight on her. Everything just felt so erotic. Unchained Melody was playing on the CD. I could hear the words from the song in the background. Oh, my love, my darling, I hunger for your touch. Are you still mine? I need your love. God, speed your love to me. Here I was, 35 years old, having sexual feelings I had never felt. It was a completely different feeling. We were both worn out from the lovemaking. I let the music play, but turned off the light and just cuddled with the woman I loved. The next morning, I woke up first and put on some coffee. When I went back in the room, Mary was awake. She asked me if I still loved her and if the love was good enough to be my wife. I told her I had something for her as I went to reach into the nightstand. "You aren't going to give me the 300 back, are you?" she said, smiling. I reached into the nightstand and pulled out an engagement ring. "No, not the 300. Even though you more than earned it, I have this instead. Will you marry me, Rachel Davis, and make me the happiest man alive?" As I took her hand and slid the engagement ring on her finger, she was still as naked as a jaybird, but grabbed me and hugged me with those tears in her eyes. "Yes, yes, 100 times yes. I will be your wife. You have made me the happiest woman on this planet." The rest of the weekend was a repeat of the previous episodes. We did show up for work on Monday. Emma could see the glow from both of us. "Hey, little brother, I've never seen you glow before. Must have been a hell of a nice wedding you guys went to." She smiled at me as I headed for my office. In the office, there was Olivia sitting at my desk and drawing. She told me she was the boss and was giving the orders today. Mary came in and laughed as she listened to her daughter giving out orders. When Olivia saw her mom, she ran to her. It would be great if every mother-daughter relationship was as good as theirs. Mary showed Olivia the engagement ring I gave her. Olivia asked what it meant. "Well, sweetheart, it means that Mommy and Uncle Jake are going to get married." "What about me, Mommy?" she asked. "You'll answer that one, Olivia. You probably won't call me Uncle Jake anymore. You can call me Daddy if you want to." I could see tears in everyone's eyes, Emma, Mary, and even little Olivia. I had tears in my own eyes by then. Olivia looked at me and then at her mom and said, "We're going to be a real family just like on TV?" I was hoping our family would be better than the new TV families, but then I remembered that Mary told me that they liked to watch the old classic family shows together. That's the kind of family I wanted to be also. We did get married soon after that special weekend. I adopted Olivia and our life is great. They moved into my condo and now it's a real home. To think it all began with a future hooker asking me if I wanted any. That has to be one of the weirdest starts for a marriage I can think of. I often wonder where she would be today if she had left that evening or if I didn't help her out. Looking back, I have to believe that God used me as her guardian angel until I totally fell in love with her. I never helped anyone out that way before and probably will never do it again. I guess there was just something special in the two of us meeting. Our lovemaking is great, of course. We wait for Olivia to go to bed. But the wait is always worth it. Thanks for watching. Do you think the main character should have helped Mary? Or was it a risky choice? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.